All right, guys, I guess we are live. So happy Valentine's Day to everyone. And thank you so much for coming in to watch this. We're going to talk about a couple of things here. It's Wednesday. Bitcoin was up today nicely. Bitcoin miners were up nicely as well. Some were not. We'll talk about that. And then we'll also take a look at a couple of stories that we do have here. Marathon provided some information along with Iris Energy. So we'll look at those. We'll look at the hash rate that the miners have increased over the last 12 months. And then we'll get into what would the miners be possibly valued at if Bitcoin goes 2x, right? What could they actually get? Could they get like a 3x, 5x, 6x? We'll take a look at all that. And then we'll get into questions afterwards. So a lot to cover here today. We'll try to get through as fast as we can here. But as always, you guys know the drill. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research and invest in fine coins and companies for full disclosure. And if I make a mistake, corrections will be posted to Discord through the Patreon members. Have access to that on YouTube for you community posts and on Twitter as well. So hopefully everybody gets those if I do make a mistake, okay? But let's get into it here. So the first thing we're going to take a look at here is obviously going to be on Bitcoin and what's going on with that. Bitcoin right now obviously had a fantastic day today. It was up huge. Miners were up huge today. So it was definitely a nice reversal from what we saw yesterday. And it looks like we closed at 50,394. So we broke above the 50,000 barrier, which I thought was going to be a resistance here. And it broke pretty nicely here. So that's looking pretty good here. We are up now on it as well. But we closed up 4.26% on the day on Bitcoin. And then on today, we're still up a little bit here. We're at 52,184. We're up approximately, what is that, 0.65% or so, something like that. We were up higher, but we came down a little bit here. So I'm expecting this possibly to continue on tomorrow to where we might battle with, 53,000, maybe even 54,000. Who knows? These spot Bitcoin ETFs are definitely driving the demand for Bitcoin, right? And the supply just isn't there, I think. And that's what's causing Bitcoin to kind of go up here, which is great for us being in the mining stocks. We really enjoy this. So today was another great day. We had a kind of down day yesterday. So yesterday was possibly like a buying opportunity if you were buying in. But today, obviously, things took off here. I mean, everybody, well, not everybody. For the most part, a lot of the miners were up double digits here. You can see Annie was up 15%. Argo was up 15%. Digital was only up 10%. I say only, 10% is still great. Bitdeer was up 9.9%. Bitfarms up 15.9, almost 16%. Cypher up 14.8, almost 15. Cleanspark was up much higher. They came back kind of a little bit. And it seems like we're seeing maybe a little bit of a change in positions here. Looks like some miners that have gone up quite a bit here in the last couple of days are kind of maybe transitioning over to some of the miners that have not, right? So that's kind of what we're seeing here possibly today. Cleanspark was up 12.33%. CORZ was up only 3.5%, surprisingly there. Digihost was up 9%. DMG was up only 6%, right? Some of the smaller miners here at least. Hive was up 19.8%, almost 20%. Same thing with Hut 8. Those guys have been lagging behind Bitcoin, so that's why I'm saying we might be seeing a little bit of a transition into some of the miners that didn't do so well in the last couple of weeks. And then we got Iris Energy up almost 20% as well. Marathon up 14%. Mawson here down 4.63%. So that's strange, right? When you guys watch my videos on Sundays or the weekends, we usually talk about how the miners have performed over the last 52 weeks from the 52-week lows to their 52-week highs. And Mawson at that point has been like the top performer. It's outperformed some of the miners there. And I think it's just because it's so easy to manipulate. I think that stock has been manipulated through time. And now that other miners are doing better, that stock is starting to take a hit because people are starting to take their profits out of that one, going into the other miners possibly. Riot up 14%, Stronghold up 16.3%, Wolf up 12.3%. So a really great day for the miners, especially today being Valentine's Day. So a lot to celebrate for, okay? But that's kind of how the things played out right now. Let's take a look at the news stories that we do have here, and we'll get into the other things as well. So the first one is going to be quick here. Marathon schedules a conference call for the fourth quarter and fiscal year 2023 financial numbers. That is going to be coming out February 28th. I think that's the earliest for anybody that's doing the full fiscal year and numbers that we've seen so far. I think some of the other ones are going to be out in March potentially. So that'll be nice to see how they did. Obviously, they should have a pretty good year. They had a great growth in 2023. So I'm expecting pretty good numbers here. I don't know if we're going to have a positive EPS on them fourth quarter should be pretty good because we had a lot of transaction fees being added to it. So I think we might be able to squeak out a positive EPS on that. But we'll see on that one, okay? So that's coming out February 28th. We'll cover it obviously when it happens. And then we have Iris Energy here providing us with some news. So Iris Energy triples AI cloud services business to 816 NVIDIA H100 GPUs. So that's a lot more than what they had originally planned for. And the interesting part of that is they have a contract right now with somebody for like 3 months, and they can extend that contract for another 3 months. So, but we don't have any numbers as far as how much they're generating from that. Is it really that worth it for them? They're spending quite a bit of money on it. But let's get into some of the details here. So key highlights: additional purchase of 568 NVIDIA H100 GPUs for $22 million. Right, that's quite a bit. And then how fast will they be able to get an ROI on that? We don't know. We don't know how much they're getting for it, what their cost is going to be, obviously. Growing customer demand driving rapid expansion of AI cloud service business. Okay, so that's fine, but we still need to see some numbers for it. Next here, the company is undergoing growing demand for its AI cloud services, now enabling customers to train large next generation AI and LLM workloads with up to trillions of parameters. And then delivery and commissioning of additional GPUs is expected during Q2 of 2024. So basically about a month and a half away from then. And that is basically it. So like I said, the main thing I want to see out of these guys, anybody that's getting into the AI space, is I want to see how the financials are working on those, right? What is the profit margin on those, right? We've seen Bit Digital get a customer that's going to be paying him 50 million a year, but what is that costing them to have it hosted with another provider? You know, if it's costing him 40 million a year or something like that, they're still going to get 10 million, obviously, in possible revenue for it, but it's not as high as it seems normally, right? When they say 50 million. So when I see those kind of numbers, what's the profit margin on those things? Until then, I'm a little bit skeptical on how this is going to play out. But that's it for that one. Let's get into really quick the network hash rate here, growth over the last 12 months for the miners. And some of these miners also became public last year as well. So the numbers aren't really up to snuff, up to par, I guess you could say, with some of the other miners that have been operating for a much longer time. But you can see here that Argo has only increased their hash rate by about 12% here. Bit Digital, 100%, so that's good. Bitdeer, 86%. Bitfarms, 38%. Cypher, 85%. Cleanspark, 52%. CORZ, 9.3%. Digihost, 74%. DMG, 30%. Hive, 52%. Hut, 187%, and that's mainly because of the merger with USBTC. That's why we're seeing that. Otherwise, they'd be probably flat or actually below that. Iris Energy, 264%. Marathon, 237%. Mawson, 179%. Riot, 27%. Sphere, 177%. Sphere also, they started out with, at that point, I think they were at like 100 petahash or something like that. Maybe even more than that at that point. But they were right around 100 to like 300 petahash or something like that. Stronghold, 33%. TeraWolf, 389. TeraWolf also just came public here at I think towards the end of the first quarter or the beginning of the second quarter in 2023. So that's why we're seeing huge growth from them. They had a lot in the pipeline, and a lot of it got installed relatively quickly here for them, which was nice to see, obviously. Okay, 12-month hash rate difference. So here's, you can actually see what the actual installed hash rate has been in the last 12 months. Top one, obviously, Marathon. Marathon installed a bunch of miners here that, well, they had a lot of the miners already plugged in. They were just waiting on the power contracts and the power supplies to get connected, all that stuff. So once that all happened, it just happened relatively quickly because they're basically delayed a year from where they should be. But nonetheless, 2023 was a fantastic year for them, getting all that stuff plugged in. Then we can take a look at Hut 8, obviously with the USBTC merger. That was 4.6 exahash. TeraWolf with 5.6. Like I said, they came public, and that's why. And then after that, you got Iris Energy as well, 4.5 exahash growth, which was really nice to see. Cleanspark 3.4. And then you got Bitdeer with 3.1, Cypher 2.8, and everybody else, and Riot 2.7. And we should have more, obviously, growth coming here in the next couple of months on that. And then if we look at their lifetime hash rate growth, so basically when I started tracking them was, what was it, 2 years ago? And actually some of these guys I started tracking in like 2021. The beginning of third quarter, middle to third quarter of 2021 is when I started tracking these guys. So this is kind of how the growth has looked over that whole time span. I'm not going to go through all these numbers here. You guys can take a look at it. I think the real reason why you guys are here is you want to know what is going to be happening with Bitcoin miners. What are the price targets potentially if Bitcoin goes 2x? So let's get into that. We're going to do this over here. We're going to look at a bunch of numbers. There's no tables or no charts for this. I figured we will kind of go through each one by one. I'll provide you my thoughts on each one and where I might see things. Okay. So this is if Bitcoin goes to 2x, miners will go. Where will the miners go, right? So we know that some miners from, was it yesterday's video or the day before? No, the day before video. So on Monday's video, I did it where which miners could possibly not survive the halving event. We know that Argo was obviously on there as one that's a possibility, right? Some of the smaller miners like Digihost also was possibly on there. We had also Mawson on there, Sphere 3D. Stronghold was also on there as well. Maybe another one was on there as well. I'm trying to think here. A looking at the list right now. I think those were kind of like the main ones that might have an issue going into the halving event. Unless Bitcoin continues going up, well, at that point, they should be fine, right? So this is looking into it if they all survived basically the halving event. So we'll go one by one here. We'll take a look at what numbers we do have here. So we're looking at shares outstanding currently. A lot of these numbers are from Q3. Some of these numbers are from the latest reports that we've seen from like Cleanspark and Hive already reported their numbers. So we have the latest for those. And then we're also looking at current stock price, current market cap right now. And then we're looking at if Bitcoin goes 2x, what if the miners went 3x? And then we'll also take a look at 5x here. We're also looking at the market cap of what that would be at 3x and at 5x here. We're also looking at the future hash rate, what they're supposed to get installed. We're guessing that this is going to be, or we're assuming that these are going to be getting installed by the end of this year potentially. And then the current HODL, if they have a HODL in that, and we're looking at the market cap per petahash, or basically the value of the petahash per market cap, or the number of shares, or per petahash and the hash rate that they have at future. Okay, and then we're going to subtracting the HODL from it as well if they have a HODL, and then looking at that as well. So we'll go through each one here, and then obviously we'll do a Q&A at the end. If you guys have any questions, we can always go back and discuss it. Okay, also here, this is based on the numbers that I have for them currently, based on the last 3 quarters and the current quarter that we're in. This is how I'm basically saying that they're fairly valued, undervalued, or overvalued. Okay, so you can see here which ones are currently fairly valued, undervalued, and overvalued. Okay, so let's go through each one here. We'll start with Argo. Argo, we'll go into my comments here. I probably should have wrote comments in here, so that way you guys know. Okay, comments. So really no growth left for them. They're in pretty bad financial health as it is right now. They still have loans out with Galaxy Digital. So that is one of the reasons why I said Argo must possibly could be on the chopping block if the halving event happens. Right now, Bitcoin's at 45,000, 50,000, whatever it is right now. That might be a trouble for Argo, right? So with that being known, we also know that they don't have much growth left in them. So in all ideal situation, I think they could possibly get to maybe the $8.52 here if things work out pretty well, because there isn't a lot of growth for them. They're bad financial shape right now, and I just don't see the growth, right? We're looking really for miners that are growing well. Those guys could possibly outperform the other miners. So that's kind of what I'm saying. At the most, I think Argo could possibly get to $8.52 if Bitcoin goes 2x from here, so basically 100,000 for Bitcoin. Okay. If we did 5x, it would have been $14.20. I find it kind of hard to get there. But you guys can let me know what you guys think. We can obviously discuss it further. Okay, next is BitDigital. So BitDigital has pretty small growth left in them as far as their own hash rate growth. We know that their AI business is going to be growing. Like I stated earlier, that they're going to be generating about $15 million in revenue, but we don't know what the expenses are going to be. If the expenses are at 40 million, well, it's $10 million in revenue. That's still pretty good, but it's not as great as you might have from self-mining, right? So we need to see those numbers. I really need to see those. And that's kind of what I'm going by here. I just don't know what those numbers are going to be for AI as far as profitability and things like that. So I have them at between $10.11 to $16.85. I think with the small growth that they have a healthy balance sheet. So there's really no issues there. They do have a HODL position as well. It's valued right now at 33 million. So I would say somewhere between $10 and the $16 would be a fair value for them, somewhere in there. Okay. But it all depends on how they're doing with the AI stuff as well. Okay. Next, BitDeer. BitDeer right now is undervalued. I say sketchy financials because there seems like there were some things omitted in the Q3 results, right? Cash statement sheet, I think, was missing. And then also the number of shares that, you know, how they always track the shares, number of shares out, how much were added in, things like that. That was missing. So I'm saying sketchy financials there a little bit. Okay. Planned growth is also not until 2025. So they really don't have any growth this year that we're seeing here. So the growth is pretty much limited on that side of things. They don't have a HODL right now, at least that none that I can tell from based on the information that we do have for them. And if that is all true, then I'm saying maybe $26.25, but we're also not taking into account any of the hosting that they do, right? So this is just based on where the stock is right now times the 3x multiple. If Bitcoin goes 2x, I think they might do that because they've been kind of underperforming here Bitcoin recently. Okay, so that's that one. Bitfarms is I'm looking at currently undervalued. I think they're way undervalued right now from where they should be compared to their peers. They have good growth upcoming, right? They're supposed to get to 12 exahash the first half of the year, and then they have an option to get to 12x or 17 exahash by the end of the year, and potentially to 20 exahash or something like that, with the option to buy additional miners to get to that. So they do have really good growth here. coming up. Healthy financials, right? They paid down a lot of the debt that they have, and they're also starting to kind of increase a little bit of a hodl here. So that's at 36.4 million. So based on that, I think they could actually get more than a 5x multiple on this. But so we're looking at $17.45. They could actually get more than that, from what I'm seeing here at least, right? But we're looking kind of at these guys in the same light of things. So that's why I want to kind of provide you guys with what would it be a 5x, but then also should it be more than that potentially, right? I think Bitfarms potentially could be more than that, because if they get to 20 exahash, they would be valued at that point about 5.6 billion, 5.6 billion. And if we have somebody else that's getting to that as well, let me see here, future 12. If they get to 20 right now, well, if they get to 20, I think they should get more at that point, right? But we're only going by 12 right now. So I do think they should be more than that. I'll leave it at that. Okay, Cypher next here. Undervalued currently, good growth upcoming, healthy financials, right? We also had the FUD from the Bitfury stuff go away. So that's looking much better there. There's not as much concern of one entity selling a heck of a lot of shares and dropping the price down. So I think that has obviously been a good thing for them. They're currently at $4.02. I think somewhere between $12.06 to $20 will be good. They have future hash rate of 16.8 exahash. Right now is what I have written down for them. So they do have good growth coming up. And based on that, I think they should be somewhere between there, maybe towards the higher end of the 5x, right? Okay, on that one. Then we got Cleanspark here. Cleanspark has obviously is currently fairly valued based on my numbers. They have great growth upcoming, right? I think they're at 12 something right now, maybe getting to 13 exahash with the miners they're putting in February right now. So they're going to be getting to 32 exahash by the end of the year, potentially. We still don't, let me rephrase that. We know that they're going to be getting to at least 20 exahash because they already purchased the facilities for that. The beyond that is still questionable because they need to buy facilities to get to that. So we're saying 32 exahash, but that's kind of where we have it going with what they stated as their goal is for this year. Okay, so healthy financials, good balance sheet. Bitcoin stack has been growing for them. It's 162 million right now. And based on that, having between $53.55 to $89.25. Depends where things go. They could also catch a little bit more because they are growing so much that some of these miners, like in the past bull run in 2021, were getting multiples much higher. So they could get also this time around. So somewhere around there is kind of where I'm looking at, right? My original price target for Cleanspark going back probably a year now was about $70 at that point, but it also depends on how much they dilute during this time. And with the price tag of the stock price being up higher, means it will probably dilute less than they really need to. So that'll be good also. So that's helping us out as investors. Okay, so that's that one. Core Scientific here. So Core obviously has been out of bankruptcy now for almost about a month now. I think 3 weeks or something like that. I think investors are still pretty skittish on them as far as their performance, their financials, things like that. I think we need at least a quarter or two of financial results from them to see how they are doing after getting out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And at that point, if we start seeing also some institutions saying to buy them in, I think that will drive the stock price up. But I definitely think that they are way undervalued right now based on where they are currently. We don't have a lot of growth outlined for them right now as far as future growth, right? I think they're supposed to get to like 20 exahash or something like that within the next couple quarters. And then after that, we really don't know. So if they do purchase machines, that would be nice. But even at that point, they're way undervalued compared to their peers, right? They're actually higher than Cleanspark and just a little bit lower as far as hash rate than Marathon is. But their market value here, if you look at it here right now, is 702 million, right? And you look at Cleanspark, it's at 3.5 billion valued, and then Marathon is valued at 6.5 billion right now. So definitely undervalued here based on that information. So I think it'll catch up, and that's why I think it might actually get better numbers here if it does start performing really well. We're looking at current numbers here based on the stock price to 5x. I think they might be actually able to get like a 10x to maybe a 15x because of that, because of how undervalued they are. Okay, but that's kind of what we're looking at there. Digihost here. Let's see here. Digihost right now is at $2.05. They are undervalued currently. Minor growth left, and they don't have the greatest financials. I probably shouldn't have used bad financial health, but not great financial health. They have, I think, like $2 million difference between what they have current assets and current liabilities. But that was from Q3, so we'll have to see how things progress through Q4 for them. And like I said, minor growth here a little bit. They're one of the smaller miners here. They're supposed to only get to about 2 exahash, or 1.2 I have them at actually. And based on that, and between $6.15 to $10.25, I would say probably closer to the $6.15 here on that one. Okay, next is DMG also. DMG also minor growth here, but they have really good financial health. So they're at 52 cents right now, and they're valued at 87 million. I would say maybe somewhere in between the $1.56 to $2.60 would be a fair value for them. They do have a little bit of HODL here, 21 million. That should also help them out going forward. So kind of that's where I'm looking at that one. Okay, Hive obviously just reported their financial results yesterday. We went over that. They have obviously some good growth ahead of them still, almost double from where they are right now. Great operations, healthy financials. So I think that they are undervalued from where they are. They're also getting into the HPC business, the AI stuff of things. Need to see how those are progressing going forward as well. And I have them between $13.02 to $21.70. I think they would be somewhere fairly valued between there as it is right now. Okay, Hut 8 is interesting because they just merged with USBTC a couple months ago. I would like to see them at least post 1 or 2 quarterly results to see how they are doing with the combined company, right? Are they bleeding cash? Are they able to sustain themselves? What's going on there? We'd like to see that information from the combined company now. But based on this information, I think that they are kind of fairly valued right now, right? If we look at their petahash, what they're getting without the HODL right now, it's about $124,000 per petahash. You take out the HODL on that, they're getting $67,000 on it right now. Okay, so that's definitely pretty low there. So their HODL is contributing to a lot of their value, I think, in the stock price right now. Also, their growth here. That's the other major concern with them, right? We've heard the CEO, the new CEO, Hashrate, talk about they are going to be very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very cautious with the way that they deploy capital, right? They're trying to get as much of a return on investment as possible. They said that he stated that they would possibly run the older miners that Hut 8 had until they no longer make sense for them. They can also underclock them, make them a little bit more efficient at that point. So it doesn't look like there's going to be much growth from them. They are obviously taking over with Celsius Mining, which is now Iconic Mining. Those things are working on those things as well there. So seems to me like they're switching more over into managed services and hosting business than into actual Bitcoin mining itself. It's like that's been put on the side burner a little bit. But based on that, I still think that they should be somewhere between $30 and $51. I would say maybe closer to $30 in value for that, maybe 3x from where they are right now, because we're not seeing that growth that I think investors are looking for in them. Okay, next is Iris Energy here. Iris Energy is at $8.30 right now. They have good growth upcoming, healthy financials as of June 2023. We're supposed to get their financial results tomorrow, so we'll see how those things have improved or gotten worse over the last 6 months. And like I've said before, I really wish they would provide quarterly results. I think that would help the stock out a lot, but they are definitely undervalued here right now. And based on that, I think they could probably be between $24.90 to $41.50, maybe even higher than that, because they have pretty good growth. They're supposed to get to 10, and then they have plans to get to possibly 20 exahash after that as well, or the option to get to 20 exahash, I believe. So they do have growth. They are growing into the AI space, but then again, the AI space, we need to see some financial results for that, how profitable it is. But that's kind of what we're looking at them right now. Okay, then we got Marathon here. Marathon's at $29.41. I think they're kind of fairly valued right now based on the last 3 quarters and the current quarter that we're in numbers here. They have great growth upcoming, healthy financials. They're buying facilities to take advantage of that, being able to service those facilities themselves, which will reduce their costs, which is good, which, I think they've realized that is the way to go. They have a huge HODL, obviously. That's valued at $714 million right now, and it's only going to get better from there. So we're looking at them at possibly $88.23 to $147.05, potentially, maybe even more than that, if they can get to the 30 exahash and beyond, even to the 50 exahash that they're talking about here. But I don't think the 50 exahash is going to be maybe not until next year sometime or the year after that, potentially. It's a lot to grow. So that's that one, right? Definitely would be much higher from where it is right now, I think. And then Mawson here. Mawson, like I've said, no growth, bad financials. They are in bad shape right now, based on what I'm seeing here. And if they survive the halving event, I think maybe they could get to like $6.18. I doubt that they're going to get that high to $10.03. We've seen a huge run up in them over the last 12 months because their stock is so easy to manipulate. Right? If you look at their number of shares out, 16 million. So it's easy to manipulate that stock to make it go up and go basically burr on it. Right? That one, Stronghold, also 7.9 million shares, is easily manipulated. Digihost also can be easily manipulated as well. And then Argo, like are the ones that have the least amount of shares out there. So those are the ones that can be kind of easily manipulated as well. Okay, that's kind of what I'm looking for. Mawson there. Then we got Riot. Riot right now is looking kind of like it's overvalued based on my numbers. And the reason for Riot is because they also curtail quite a bit, but they also get credits for it. I don't include the credits for any of the stuff that they do here. So that's kind of what we're looking at for them. They do have also pretty good HODL as well, valued at 347 million right now. And if we do a 3x, we're looking at $52 to a 5x, $88 on that one. So you can kind of see how that kind of all stacks up on those, right? And I think that's kind of where they should be really probably valued at 88. They are building out another facility that's going to get to another additional gigawatt of power potentially for them. They're supposed to get that up and running, at least one building of that in the second quarter here, or even maybe later on this quarter. So that's going to help them out. Hopefully they have more access to electricity there. They can run a little bit better uptime operations there. So that would be good there. So that's kind of what we're looking for them. Sphere 3D also minor growth left, bad financial health right now. They did get, I believe it was around 10 million from the settlement with Core. That kind of helps them out a little bit. But other than that, not much growth there. They host everything along with like Argo that hosts everything. So they have a very few shares out right now. I would think maybe if they could get to the $7.62 here on it, possibly I don't know. I don't think $12.70 would be in the cards here for them. I think $7.62 is more likely based on their no growth, bad financial health. If they can survive the halving event, will be somewhere around there, maybe. Right, Bitcoin goes up to 200,000. And then we got Stronghold here. Stronghold, so minor growth left, bad financial health and operations. Carbon capture is going to look kind of interesting. We'll have to see how much they can generate from that and credits, things like that. So those all things we're going to play into it as well. But based on just what I'm seeing here, the biggest thing for them is just their operations are so expensive. It's going to be tough for them come having to make a profit until Bitcoin is possibly closer to 100,000. So that's why I'm saying $18.96, possibly not doable, right? They're currently at $6.32. Maybe they can get a double here at 2x. They've kind of underperformed Bitcoin as well. So keep that in mind, right? You got to take in the information here, look at the other things, financial health, all that other stuff into account as well. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking for them. Maybe they could get to somewhere around 18 if all goes well for them. TeraWolf here, the last one, is undervalued right now. Minor growth, bad debt. They are paying down part of their debt here by April 1st. I think they have to pay down 40 million. After that, they will have 100 million in there. And I believe it was BlackRock that just invested in them again recently here. So maybe they will be able to restructure the rest of the debt that they do have with maybe BlackRock potentially. Spread the debt out over the next 3, maybe 5 years or something like that. So they're not paying out the rear end and interest payments. So that would definitely be a benefit to them there, or if they can, maybe even if they dilute, I think, well, they got 238 million shares outstanding, so it doesn't really make sense for them to dilute, but maybe at least restructure the debt so it's not as onerous on them on their monthly payments and things like that, especially as you go into the halving event. They do have still some growth left in them. They are planning to grow beyond that, so that's good there. So I have in between $7.38 to $12.30. I think they could possibly definitely get there between there somewhere. And that would give them obviously a market cap between 1.7 and 3 billion on that. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm looking at things based solely on if Bitcoin goes 2x. So if Bitcoin goes up to 100,000, it's kind of what we're looking at. Some of these miners, like I said, might perform better because of their growth, their balance sheet, their HODL. All those things can be contributed to it as well. And yeah, we'll leave it at that, and we'll see if you guys have any questions, obviously, right now, and we'll go from there. So let me go back to my screen question here, and if you guys have questions, put them all in like capital letters, the way I know it's a question, or at least preface it with a question in all capital letters, and that way I will know what's going on. Okay, so there we go. Let me get into my screen here, and let me see what else I want to say. As always, the spreadsheets are available to my Patreon members, so that's still, I think there might be a spot or two left on the $4 tier, $5 tier, and then the other tier is $8. There's plenty of spots there left, and you guys have access to all my spreadsheets. Everything that I do is provided to you guys there on Patreon, and then you can have access to the Discord channel as well, where we have a lot of great conversations there. Okay, so that is it for my sales pitch, and that's all I sell to you guys is just my spreadsheets. Okay, so let's see if we have any questions here. Okay, let me see here. First question is from T. If Wolf get rid of their debts by end of year, how high would their price be? Well, that's a good question. It all depends at that point. Obviously, their debt, so they will be paying less on the interest, less on the payments on the debt itself. that would be a big boom for them because it's like 100 million that they have to pay off by the end of the year. Well, 40 million by the end of March, and then another 100 million by the end of the year. So if they can do that, I think that would definitely be a big improvement for them. So from there, they could probably get another couple, $5, $10 more per stock price, potentially. But it's hard to tell right now without actually running the numbers on it. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so BlackRock owns Wolf. Do we know what else they own? Yeah, I think they own Marathon, Cleanspark, maybe Bitfarms, I think, Riot. They own quite a few of the miners that are out there. And it might not be BlackRock directly, it might be some of their investment vehicles that they have out there that are owning these companies in there. Okay, let's see here. Question, which are your top 3 picks right now? My top 3 picks right now are probably Cleanspark, Bitfarms, and Iris Energy. And the reason for that, you guys will probably know, is Cleanspark has been really efficient. Same thing with Bitfarms. They're growing nicely as well. And so is Iris Energy. The only thing that Iris Energy kind of irks me is that they don't provide the quarterly results and they don't hodl anything. So that's kind of like on my bottom 3 there. Or Iris Energy is on my bottom 3rd part of it. The other miners that I also like is Marathon. Obviously, they have so much potential there. If they could have their operations running for more than 25 to 28 days, I think that would be huge for them like they did in December. That would be fantastic for everybody. They just need to work on that. Riot also, with all the curtailing that they do, sometimes doesn't make any sense because they're curtailing at a loss. They're getting credits for like $1 million, but they could have mined for like 3, 4 million, 5 million even, and extra revenue, right? Minus take away the electrical fees at that, and you're still looking at possibly 2 million or something like that, where it just doesn't seem to make sense. So I think with Riot, with their facilities, not upgrading the facilities, but building out the facilities and CORZ, I believe, that's going to be a big boom for them there. And then we have Cypher, obviously, I think is a good one as well. Then you got Wolf if they didn't have the debt. And then Core, obviously Core is out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, but we need to see some more data on them, on that one. Okay, let's see what else do we have here. Well, if Bitcoin price target goes to nuclear to 200,000, you can pretty much double my numbers that I have here, pretty much. That's kind of the way it kind of would work out. Usually, Bitcoin goes 2x, the miners will do like a 6x, somewhere around there. I went a little bit lower, went to 5x at the most. I didn't want to be moon boy here. I'd just be a little bit more conservative on the numbers, but you could possibly just go double that at that point. Let's see here. You guys are having a lot of questions going through here. Okay. Well, you guys are asking a lot about Canon. What's your take on Canon? So I've responded to you guys in the comments and other places like that. I'm not a big fan of Canon, mainly because if you look at the chart and compare Bitcoin to Canon over the last basically 1 year, 3 years, there is a disconnect between the two. Bitcoin goes up, Canon goes down. It just doesn't make any sense, right? So they're not even on par with where Bitcoin is. So if Bitcoin goes up 100%, I would think that it would be at least 100%, if not better, or close to that. If you look at the last year numbers for them, Bitcoin's up like 130 some percent, Canon's down 23% in that year. It just doesn't make any sense. So for that, it's not a proxy play for me against Bitcoin. So I think the miners and everybody else is a lot better proxy play on it than Canon is. Let's see. Do you think the Bitcoin ETFs will buy out a few of the miners, BlackRock, Wolf potentially? Yeah. I don't know if they want to be in the mining business. That's a cutthroat business and it's very capital intensive, right? I think they want to invest in those now before the having event, and then possibly they're going to be selling out of those guys. Obviously, once we can start getting into a peak bull run and things like that, that's probably going to make a lot of their money there. But other than that, if you're buying miners, you're paying for Wolf, you probably have to pay what, 750 million, if not more, for that. Plus, then you have to buy infrastructure, build out infrastructure, get the miners, install the miners. It's a lot of work. I don't know if they want to get into that. Let's see here. Next question. Okay. Question: When you plan on taking profits? So probably 12 to 18 months after the having event. That's kind of what my plan is right now. Things may change, obviously, because we don't know what's going to happen with Bitcoin and the spot Bitcoin ETFs. If they continue to drive the Bitcoin price up, we could be in a, maybe, some are saying it, a super cycle right now. But we'll see. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, see how that progresses. If my price targets come in where I thought they would come in, I would be probably 7 figures in profits at that time. So I'll be probably taking some off. So if I get beyond that, I'll probably take something off of it and maybe let a little bit ride, maybe 10% ride on it, see where it goes or something like that. I just don't know yet. I have to look into that. Let's see, question. Okay. Pretty much on the same thing. Do you plan to fully exit your miner position in this cycle or hold some through the next cycle and beyond? No. I've learned my lesson here. So in 2021, I still had Hive at that point. People were saying Bitcoin's going to go to 100,000. Didn't go there. Got to 69,000. I was holding through the bear market, basically. Just recently sold them. So I learned my lesson on that one. I was up like 70,000 on it at that point, and I just sold it now for a couple $1,000 profit. Okay. So I learned my lesson on it. I will be selling pretty much everything that I own out of those, unless things change where we see the spot Bitcoin ETFs having a continuous impact on the Bitcoin price, where it is going up and up and up, and then the miners are making more and more. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But the original plan was to get out of them completely. Let's see. Question. In your opinion, will Bitfarms touch $8 within 2024 early? I would think, yeah. I mean, Bitcoin continues to go up. If Bitcoin goes up to 100,000, I think we'll definitely touch $8, if not more, beyond that. So just kind of like what the numbers we ran through. Okay, how does the HODL affect share price multiple? I think in the past it affected it more. Now that we have the spot Bitcoin ETFs, I think it affects it a little bit less. What I usually try to do is what I try to do is look at the HODL that they have right now and try to take that out of the market cap that they have. Or if we look forward, what the Bitcoin price could be at that point, right? Try to take that out and see what the miners would get just for that, and what the HODL itself. But I think it has a lot less marginal effect than we had in the past, I think, right? Before, we didn't have the spot Bitcoin ETFs, so people were using these miners that had a huge HODL as a proxy to Bitcoin, basically, like we're seeing with MicroStrategy, right? I don't know how that's going to work out. Plus, I think with the new FASB rules coming into effect this year, if the miners take advantage of it, they're going to be obviously getting a positive cash balance on it based on where Bitcoin prices from where then reported. And then if Bitcoin starts going back down, they're going to report it as well. So I think they're going to be selling that HODL and using it to grow into the next cycle, potentially, if there is another cycle. Let's see. Your guess on Iris Energy share price after earnings tomorrow if Bitcoin price didn't change. So if Bitcoin stays where it's at right now, I think Iris, if they, depending on the results we have from them, right? That's the tough part with Iris Energy. They don't provide the quarterly results, so we can't really see how they're doing. The data we do have is 6 months out, so it's tough to see. I mean, I can see what they actually make as far as in that 6 months. So let's take a look at that. Why don't we look at that right now? Let me pull this up for you guys here, and we'll just kind of look at it here. Iris Energy here. Let's take a look at the numbers that we do have here for them. Okay, there we go. So here's Iris Energy, all their information that I track. And if we look at their revenues here over the last 6 months, so they reported in June, right? So they had 35 million in revenue at that point. They had 11 million the prior quarter in revenue. So we're looking potentially at, this is estimated number too, also from, I think from March, because it's hard to figure it out. But I'm looking at a potential of approximately, what is that going to be? 75 million here in revenue for the second half, or it might be even the first half, depending on when their fiscal year is. I can never remember their fiscal year when it starts and ends, but it might be their first half of the fiscal year. So we're looking at 75 million, which is definitely a big improvement from where they were. Now, just on the operational side of things is where were their costs on general administrative, all those other things, right? Where did that come in at? How much did they spend on building out all of that? So if they are able to squeak out a positive EPS, it's going to be very slim, I think. More than likely, you're probably going to have a negative EPS because of possibly also the depreciation, right? If you include that into it, it's going to be a negative. I'm almost, I'd say, 85% sure it's going to be a negative EPS on it. So we'll see, depending on how they do, though. So that's it on that one. Let's go back here. And let's see what else do we have here. Okay, question on this one. Do you think the dirty miners will be penalized this year? And if so, with Cleanspark, Iris, Bitfarms being more clean energy, do you think it could knock out some competition? No, I mean, because right now, majority of the miners are pretty much clean. There's only a couple miners that are using like, some are using a very, I mean, tiny, minute percentage of coal. The rest are either coal, hydro, nuclear, solar, and wind, right? So they're all pretty clean as it is right now, at least the ones that I'm tracking here. The only one that's really doing anything with coal here is obviously Stronghold, but they're reusing the reuse coal, I think it's called, the waste coal, and they're actually cleaning up the environments around the areas where they're working in that. So I think that's great there. So they're also getting carbon credits from that potentially. So I don't think that's going to be happening to anybody here on that one. Let's see here. Let's see if you guys have any question. Next buying opportunity. Whenever we get a dip, I guess. Right now, we had a dip yesterday. We had a nice day today. So whenever you get a dip, kind of buy the dips if you can, right? Not financial advice as always, but that's kind of what I've done here ever since 2022 is I've been buying down because I didn't know where the bottom was going to be in the markets in Bitcoin and the miners. So I just kind of kept buying, and the price kept going down lower, the more I was actually, buying shares. So it was great. And I have a nice stack now. And, if things maybe dip a little bit more and I have opportunities to buy, I'll buy definitely on the dips. But I think the miners are definitely the place to be in, just being the ones that are obviously growing, good health, healthy balance sheet as well, things like that to look at. Okay. Let's see. Talked about Canon already. Miner.doc asks, your Discord is pretty busy now. Do you monitor your channels as a social metric for FOMO? No, because majority of you guys that are in there already are pretty much, invest in the miners or interested in the miners. So that's really not the take there. I think the FOMO will be when your neighbor starts, knocking on your door and saying, hey, are you investing in Bitcoin, right? When the neighbor has never talked about Bitcoin before. So that's going to be kind of your FOMO meter there. But within my communities, everybody's in Bitcoin or Bitcoin miners or ETFs. They're doing options and all that stuff. So that would not be a good measure for me, at least, to see if we're getting into the FOMO part of it. Are any companies mining Ethereum? No, mining Ethereum is no longer a part of the things. That ended in 2022 in September, I want to say, right? So you can't mine Ethereum anymore. It's all proof of stake now. Let's see here. When is it a good time to exit Wolf? That is up to you to decide, right? I can't tell you that. If you're up on it, there's no shame in taking profits, obviously, but are you a trader or are you a long-term investor? You gotta look at those types of things. Do you need the cash? Do you not need the cash? It's up to you. And then how is the company doing itself? That's you have to decide that. Let's see here. What else do we have here? Okay, will BTC have a massive pullback? What do you mean by massive? Recently we've only seen like 20% pullbacks in Bitcoin over the last year or so. So we're not having those kind of same pullbacks that we've seen basically when we bottomed out in, December of 2022. Other than that, we've had obviously nice rallies. We pulled back, but it was like only 20%. So we're not having these kind of major things. And I think as we get more institutions involved in this as well, I think those pullbacks are going to be even smaller going forward potentially. But we'll have to see on that one. Let's see. Question, do you think it's prudent to buy Riot or Mara at their current prices? Well, depending on where you are right now. So I think if you've been dollar cost averaging into them or if you're just getting new into them, I wouldn't say YOLO everything into them all at once. I would say dollar cost average in, see if you can get in on the dips, also see where things are going. It's hard to tell right now with like I said, the spot Bitcoin ETFs. I keep saying that, but it's true. Last cycle, we didn't have that. This time we do have it. And it seems like it's throwing a wrench to everything that we've seen in the past cycles. So with that being said, be cautious out there, obviously. Do your own due diligence, do your own research, and you got to figure out how much you want to deploy into it, when you want to deploy into it. And then do you think we might get a dip before the halving event, which we might get? So there might be buying opportunities, but we may not also get them. So there's a lot of obviously questions and risks involved in that, in any strategy that you do. Scott Richardson, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. Let's see. Dilution. Okay. So could IREN, Iris Energy dilution change your view on undervalued? There would have to be massive dilution to change that based on where they are right now and based on where their peers are at the same level of hash rate right now. So there would have to be like 100% dilution or more than that in order for me to change my mind on it because they're just way undervalued. They've obviously had a nice pop here recently. So that gets them a little bit closer to where they should be valued, but they're still undervalued based on that. So no. Okay, when are Cleanspark supposed to have their full site, Sanderville site energized, 16 exahash pretty soon, I hope? They stated they're supposed to get to like 13.4, 13.6, I can't remember it, and then the other 1.6, 1.4 exahash to get them to the 16 exahash has been pushed out a little bit because they had a problem with one of the transformers, I think. Didn't pass testing, inspection or something like that. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now. So I'm guessing probably within the next maybe month or two, depending if they have to get a new transformer or not on that one. Let's see here. Okay, that's a pretty good question. So with all the inflows to the ETFs, what are the circumstances that could lead to outflows, Bitcoin going down? So as you know, sometimes whatever their allocation is going to be in the ETF. So let's say companies that invest in the ETFs. So they may have like an allocation that they're going to put in 1% of their portfolio into Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin goes up 2x from here. They may have to do a reallocation, right? Where they're going to relocate their assets to bring them back down to the 1% based on their risk tolerances and all those things. So that's when we might see it, but it might not be everybody all at once. It might be a company does it here, a company does it there. It's going to be a little bit tough to see how that's going to play out. Let me see here. Is Cleanspark overbought? I think they're fairly valued right now based on where they are, where they're growing, and things like that. I mean, it could be even higher in price going forward too. It's just sometimes when you get into these bull runs, these companies do tend to outperform and, you know, kind of lead the pack, I guess, a little bit. Okay, what happens if all ETFs stop buying BTC? Will it stop? Will it still go up to 100,000? Yeah, I mean, ETFs are obviously driving a lot of it right now, but I don't think they're going to stop buying it. You got a very, 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 very small percentage of people that are buying into the ETF right now, right? Over the whole available dollar amounts that are out there that can be invested in this. If everybody just put in 1%, there's still a heck of a lot more to go. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. Maybe in the next couple 5-7 years, maybe we'll get to that point. But I think even at that point, there's still going to be a lot of people that are going to be investing in it because it just seems like the right thing to do. But that's just my take on it. Let me see your question. DMG to 50x less Psycho. Are the micro miners a good strategy for max portfolio growth? Yeah, that's a tough one. I didn't look at DMG last cycle. I only looked at Marathon, Riot, Bitfarms, Hive, and Hut 8 on the last cycle. I didn't check into DMG. But at that point, I think Marathon was up like 7,000% at one point. So that was 70x, right? Riot was 40x. Some of the other smaller miners that at Bitfarms, Hut, and Hive were around like 17x, not 17x, 1,700%. What is that going to be? I can't remember now, but right around there, 2,000 to like 1,500 percentage increases. So those smaller guys did actually worse than some of the bigger guys that were going to be growing. With DMG, I'm surprised that it was up 50x, but I'll have to double check on that one. Okay. Do you think MicroStrategy outperforms some miners? Potentially some of the smaller ones that aren't growing as much, right? But the other miners that are growing, have a healthy balance sheet, HODL, they're going to outperform. I mean, they've already outperformed Master already. I mean, if you look at just year to date or last year numbers, Bitcoin was up, what was it, 150%? Master was up 200 some percent. Miners were up 300, 400, 500%. They already outperform it. Let's see here. Why did CORZ lag compared to other miners today? And do you have any idea on when this should pop, if it's going to? CORZ, you guys know, out of bankruptcy just recently here, I think people are just waiting to get some information on them as far as their financials are concerned, right? They need to see how they're doing after getting out of that. Are they cash flow positive? Are they, doing all the right things? I think that's going to take some time, right? Nobody is eager to get back into a company that's been bankrupt before, right? So they need some time. We need to see investors getting into them as well. Once that happens, I think then it'll pop, but it's going to take some time for it, I think. Let's see here. So we talked about this a little bit here today. Can you explain, Mawson, why it's been going down to $2.06 today when BTC going up 52? What's going on with the massive price manipulation, and do you think it will go past 3? Opinion. I mean, it might go past 3, but if they can survive the halving event. And the main reason is they have so little shares out right now that it's easy to manipulate them, right? If you looked at last year's numbers for them, they were like leading the pack as far as percentage gains on them, which didn't make any sense based on their performance, their debt and current liabilities, all this stuff, right, is just all negative across the board, and yet they still did the best. So it's like one of those GameStop things I keep saying, right? If you remember GameStop from a couple of years back, it's kind of what we're seeing with Mawson here. It's just being driven up because I like the stock. So there's really no reason for it to be where it is right now. So I think right now, all of that cash that was going into it, people that made a lot of money on it are moving out into other miners that have a better potential going past the halving event on that one. Okay, let's see what else I have here. Will BTC ever get to $1 million? Possibly in the next 10, 15 years, might be even faster than that. I mean, we've heard some people say they could get to 1 million in the next 5 years because of the spot Bitcoin ETFs again, right? Driving that demand out there. We have a supply crunch happening here in the next, 60 days now? 60 some days? So that's going to get cut in half. So you have this demand and supply economics being at play here, and it's just going to drive the price up. So we'll see. What else do we have here? Okay, well, we already talked about Canon. I know we discussed it before. Like I said, look at the charts for the last year, 3 years compared to Bitcoin. It'll tell you everything you need to know. It has not even come close to performing as well as Bitcoin, or even on par with Bitcoin in those time cycles. So that reason that makes me think it's not a good play. Here, I'm trying to catch up here. Okay, here's a good question. Will the price increase in miners slow down after having or have no effect as long as BTC price goes up? I mean, it seems like right now, it just seems weird, right? Last cycle, miners were going down before the halving event. Last year, they were going up. This year, they're going up, and it's all driven by a spot Bitcoin ETF. So it's hard to say what's going to happen at that point. Obviously, their revenue's going to get cut in half, but I think if people believe, and maybe they're front running a little bit, that Bitcoin price is going to go up to maybe 100,000 later on this year, that the miners will be pretty much doing a lot better at that point, right? Plus, they're growing tremendously here. At least some of them are. So it's going to be tough to say. We'll have to see, unfortunately. I wish I had a better answer for you on that one. Let's see. Okay. If you could start fresh, which miners are you most bullish on? So that would be Bitfarms, Cleanspark, Iris Energy, Marathon, Riot, Cypher, Wolf, potentially, and then Core, depending how they do with their financials and everything else, getting out of bankruptcy. So those are kind of like the top ones I would look into. So do you think Bitfarms market cap currently is in relation to Mara is appropriate, 6 to 1? No. Basically, they have, 6 exahash right now. Marathon has 24. That's only 4 to 1 ratio on that, right? So it should be much higher. That's why I'm kind of looking at it that way. Okay. All right. I think that is it. So we've obviously done questions for a long time here. If you guys have any other questions, hit me up in the comments down below. You guys know I answer at least the very first question or the comment you guys post. I'll answer it if you guys have a question there. I don't have a lot of time to get into, if you have a reply and a reply and a reply. I just don't have the time for it, guys. Sorry, there's so many more of you guys now than there were in the past, where in the past I could do that. I just don't have the time for it. So if you do respond or reply or comment in the next hour or so, I'll always try to get back to you guys on those. And then we'll see what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow, Iris Energy obviously reports their quarterly results. We'll get into that. We'll see what else happens. We'll look at some other metrics as well and see how things go from there. And we'll call it a day. So again, thank you so much for coming in. I greatly appreciate you guys coming into chat, especially on Valentine's Day. You guys should have been with your significant others or your girlfriends, your spouses, whatever you have out there. But you came in here to chat with me. So I appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, have a great night.